Find product links below and hundreds more videos on my channel.
Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to be reviewing the Sachtler FSB4 fluid head, and it's actually pronounced Sachtler in German, but I'm going to just be sticking to the English version because it's easier. And okay, so this is right now mounted onto the legs that you can get as a kit with this head from Sachtler. And I actually have the Manfrotto brand version of these legs. Manfrotto and Sachtler are owned by the same company called the Vitek Group. They have a bunch of different brand names that they own, and I don't know where they're manufactured or whatever. I don't know the details, but they're basically the same company, so you can get this as Manfrotto or as Sachtler. And actually, I would have preferred having the Sachtler sticker on it instead of Manfrotto, just because it's a little bit cooler and it's more respected as a name. But it's you can only get these legs as a Sachtler brand if you get it with the fluid head, and I bought these in 2 different times. So yeah, so I have the Manfrotto brand ones, but you know, whatever, it's fine. So today I'm actually not going to go over the legs in detail. I have spoken about these before, and I will have a full review in the future, but these are awesome, awesome, awesome legs, the best legs that I know of. Well, the best lightweight legs that I know of. So, the Sachtler FSB4 fluid head on paper is an absolutely awesome fluid head that is basically the best that you can get for a DSLR or smaller, as well as it will go higher than that. So it won't go to really, really huge cameras, but it's intended for smaller cameras. But this is one of the very few fluid heads that will go down to 0 counterbalance, and I will explain that in more detail in a second. And so, because it has these awesome features, I bought it. You know, on paper it's awesome, but there wasn't really that much information about it online with regards to reviews and things like that, because it is more expensive. We're looking at something like $470 for the head and around $470 for the legs. They are expensive, but you're getting a lot for your money. So I bought this in my search for the perfect fluid head. Unfortunately, I don't really think in actual use this is completely perfect, but I think it's great. There's loads of things to love about this, and loads of features, and some things that I don't like. And hopefully you guys who own this or who really, really like Sachtler won't hate this video just because there are some things that I don't like about this. You know, hopefully you'll appreciate my honesty rather than me just saying that everything's awesome. So I will just, you know, I'll mention the things that I like and the things that I don't like. So let's get to, first of all, explaining a counterbalance system. For those of you that already know, I'll keep this quite quick. And okay, so counterbalance system, for you guys who might be newer to shooting, a counterbalance system, meaning the spring that sort of pushes the camera up, it's not intended to bring the camera back to 0 to staying flat. It's intended to allow you to aim the camera in any position without having to fight gravity or having to fight a spring that's too strong, and having to push against a spring. So a counterbalance system ideally should allow you to aim the camera in any direction and have the camera stay there in any position that you want without you having to put effort against anything. So basically it should allow you to get perfect shots without, you know, having gravity or too strong of a spring fighting against you. So this is one of the few fluid heads that will go to 0, as well as go to 1 kilogram and 2 kilogram. Now, 2 kilogram, you can get fluid heads that start from 2 kilogram, meaning a counterbalance that is intended for a 2 kilogram camera. However, those start from 2 kilograms, and unfortunately most DSLRs are much less than that. I mean, even a 5D Mark III with a big lens will usually only get to about 1.5 kilograms. So something that goes to 1 and to 0 means that we can use this with GoPro, we can use it with an iPhone, we can use it with an NEX camera, a GH2, whatever. It means that you basically are not limited to a size of camera. Obviously, this does have a maximum, which is actually quite big. But on the lower end, it means that you're not fighting the counterbalance, which is too strong. And also, being able to completely disengage the counterbalance is very, very, very useful. And so basically, it allows you to do really cool things. It allows you to be creative, and it allows you to disengage something which sometimes can get in the way. For example, sometimes I want to aim really, really low and the counterbalance is actually getting in the way, even if it's only the correct counterbalance for my camera. sometimes aiming that far down, the counterbalance is still going to get in the way. So it's great that you can turn it off. Unfortunately, unlike the fancy that I have over here, I've actually just got this over here just for reference, so you can, just in case I want to compare some stuff, because this is a really, really awesome head as well at a much, much lower price point, but obviously it doesn't have the high-end features that the Sachtler has. So unfortunately, this doesn't allow you to lock the, to start the counterbalance at any position. The counterbalance is always trying to push it to 0, to flat, compared to this, where you can engage the counterbalance at any point. So you can tilt it down and then engage the counterbalance right there. So that's the place where it will want to return to. So I find that feature really, really useful. However, I can live without it. So the counterbalance system on here is awesome. It is one of the best and most versatile counterbalance systems that you will find on current fluid head systems. Now, with regards to drag, the drag is fully adjustable, so we can actually go from being completely loose, meaning we can completely disengage the counterbalance, completely disengage the fluidity, the drag, and that means that we can do really fast whip pans. We can do sort of somewhat sort of unsteady sort of feeling, or sort of really strange moves if you want to. So it's really, really good to have that option. It's not something that I use very often, but being able to completely disengage the drag and counterbalance together at the same time is great. Unfortunately, on there, we don't have any drag control at all. We just have locks. So, you know, we can just lock it in place. We don't have any drag control, and we aren't able to disengage the drag completely. Okay, so when the drag on here is one of the things that I find is, I mean, it's good, it's high quality, it is smooth. However, in my opinion, it does leave a little something to be desired with regards to being able to control a camera while it's on a slider, and being able to control a camera with a really long zoom lens. So this is my opinion, this is the way that I feel with the motion of the fluid head. And that's why you see all those things over there in the background. I'm gonna be comparing this one, which I think is an awesome, super smooth fluid head. It is the smoothest that I have ever seen. I'm gonna be comparing that as the baseline for, you know, for comparison to this. And I'm gonna be doing a bunch of different moves. I'm gonna be doing fast moves, slow moves, start, stop moves, which should be the exact kind of thing that you would end up having to do in real shoots. You have to follow actors around, follow someone around on a stage, do strange moves, you know, like this while on a slider or anything like that. I'm going to be really putting these two through their paces. The locks on here are nice and strong. I have not done some sort of test to see like exactly how much it will hold, but it is very strong, and you know, it's something that, you know, you probably could move if you really pushed against it, but generally it is one of the stronger ones that I've seen, and not anything that I would complain about. The top plate system is very nice. It is a system. Over here we actually have a double system, just because I've added another quick release here so that I can switch my camera more quickly. But basically the quick release system that we have on here, we have a very long plate, which is good and bad. It's good because it allows you a lot of movement on the head system for adjusting the camera. However, with DSLRs, I actually find that long plates get in my way a little too much. They either stick out the back of the camera, which means that putting it away in the bag just isn't ideal. You know, it can sort of stick out unnecessarily. And then also they can be too far forward, which means might get in the way of the zoom or the focus ring. So personally, I do prefer shorter ones, but it's not really an issue. Now, one thing that was a little annoying here was that the screw that came with it wasn't something like this that has a D-ring. It was just a screw that you have to use something, a screwdriver or a coin or something to undo it, and didn't even have any sort of thing that you could grab onto with your finger. So I really didn't like that, and also there was nothing to prevent it from falling out. So if it wasn't attached to the camera, the screw would just basically guaranteed that the screw would fall out as soon as you take it off the camera. So what I've done is I've taken a little 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch adapter, which is going to cost you about £1 on eBay. And I've just, because it's got a little screw thing in there, I've just screwed it into the bottom of that tripod plate. And perfect, that means that the screw is not going to come out. And I've just put a Giotto's screw there instead, which has a nice D-ring and has a really nice locking mechanism, which just gives it a really, really nice lock onto the camera, like a lot of grip, a lot of power into the camera, and has a nice D-ring and has a screwdriver slot if we need it. So this Giotto's screw I think is awesome, and that's generally what I'd recommend that you would do with this. But yeah, it's not really an issue with this. It's easy to fix. Now the system on here allows you to just snap this into place like that, which is very, very nice. And you can, if I remember correctly, you can get this with a system that can snap into place without moving out of position, which you'll have to look at a picture to understand exactly what that means. But basically you have a separate piece that moves backwards and forwards for adjustment, and then a separate piece which disengages and comes back for disconnecting, for removing the camera. And when you put it back, it's balanced the exact same place. It's located the exact same place on the tripod. So over here, we've got quite a nice disconnection point. This won't slide into the system. You need to put it in from the top. And a lot of people do prefer this top loading system, and it is nicer to use. Not really that I have a huge issue with sliding the plate in, but it is a nice addition. So the pan arm on here is nice. It's non-adjustable, which means you can't adjust its length, but it's fine. It's nice and strong, nice and sturdy. It has a nice plastic grip on here. Would have been nicer, you know, I've seen nicer grips in this, but this is perfectly fine. Not something I would complain about. You can always add some sort of soft material onto there if you really want to. And it's got a nice sort of locking screw thing on the end of that, so that you can lock this really tightly in place. When it has smaller screws, it just makes it a little more difficult to get this really, really strongly connected up against the fluid head system. This is, of course, a bowl mount tripod, 75mm bowl. And if I remove this, I personally find that it's, you know, this is quite a nice locking system for the bottom, and it has this nice sort of place to really tighten it using this grip. I think I kind of prefer the Manfrotto one that I have, which came with my bowl adapter, and I'll show you that. I sort of prefer this one, but it's not really an issue. I just find that this rubbery grip without the wing at the bottom, without the big wing shape, just works better for me. One of the main things that I think makes this an awesome system that really sits above a lot of other tripods is the fact that this system is a bowl mount system that has a removable screw. This screw is very difficult to remove. You will probably need to buy a very large set of some sort of large wrench or something. And that's because it's glued into place. They don't want it to come out unless someone specifically wants to remove it. However, when you do remove it, it allows you to mount this flat to a tripod, which is awesome. It means that you don't need any adapter, which adds height. And so even though this is, you know, a fairly large fluid head, it's still shorter and smaller than having to have a bowl adapter in order to connect this to the top of a slider. So I think that is awesome. Of course, if you do this, you need to be careful because you will probably end up scratching this bottom piece. And you really need to be careful that when you put it back for using with just a regular bowl connection, that you really connect it strongly and maybe even add glue again, because I don't think this would come undone. Obviously, if you pay attention, if you check it regularly, it shouldn't come undone on its own. However, there is an issue where, let me show you this right here. So when I put that there, the camera isn't going to fall on its own because this screw sort of sits in the hole and stops the camera from falling. If this screw was not there, you would just have a bowl sitting inside a bowl with nothing at the bottom of the bowl to, I hope you guys can see that there. If that screw came undone and stayed on this side when you unscrewed it, instead of staying on that side when you unscrewed it, then what you would end up with is a nice broken camera on the floor. So removing this screw is an at your own risk sort of thing. So if you remove it, you need to be careful that when you put it back, you lock it really, really tight and maybe even glue it back into place. And so obviously depending on the glue that you use, you may or may not be able to then remove it again. So that is awesome, but something you need to be very careful with. But yeah, I'd much rather have the option to a removable screw than not have the option. And it's just something that's very uncommon on most fluid head systems. Now, something I love about this quick release plate is that it's superbly grippy against the camera and actually grippier than almost anything I've seen before. So really, really high quality rubber there. And that means that even on a DSLR, the camera won't turn very easily. So I think that's great. One thing to note is that something like this that has marks on the bottom might leave semi-permanent lines on this rubber after it's been on there a while. So for example, I think I had this on there for a day or two, and then it took, I think it took a few weeks for those marks to disappear off of the rubber. Not really an issue, but just something to keep in mind. We've got a non-illuminated bubble level over here. We have a place to put spare screws, and the feel of this thing is great. It's very well built and stuff. Alright guys, so before I show you the smoothness comparison, I wanted to give you my sort of results. I've been going back and forth between these two tripods for hours, between these two heads, and it's really, really difficult to actually give a complete answer. I feel there is a small improvement on the fancier, but we are talking about a very difficult test here, and I do have more experience shooting with the fancier. Maybe I'm just more used to it, but I do feel that there is a difference. I do feel that it is a little smoother, but this is a very difficult test. So what I've done here is I've got a 135mm lens on the 5D, which is something that I felt would be make it really difficult to follow a bunch of items around in all directions, slow and fast, and starting and stopping and all that kind of thing. I'll explain that in a second. And also to focus at the same time. And so it's something that is not unrealistic. So, it's something that you might end up shooting with, that sort of focal length, but it's definitely more than would be easy to do this kind of shot with. And it's definitely more than I would generally use on most of my shoots. I use 35 to 85 most of the time. So, okay, so the test is going to be, I'm going to do a bunch of shots. I'm going to go like this, and it's going to be sort of up and down and stuff. And first I'm going to do a slow shot, just following these and sort of slowing down a tiny bit when I get to the item, and then go upwards. And then I'm going to do the same thing, starting and stopping on each thing. And then I'm going to do the same thing again with a much faster motion, as if I'm following someone on screen, moving fast. And hopefully, and I'm going to do the same thing both ways, right? So each thing is going to go that way and then back down. And hopefully that should simulate a really, really difficult shot that I would need to do on a shoot. And hopefully it's a fair test. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay, so here's the Sachtler, and I'm going to be also focusing during this test, which will make it even more difficult to get this perfect. And then starting and stopping. And then finally a quick one. Okay, I missed focus on that bit. Okay, so that was it. Let's move over to the fancier. Okay, so here is the fancier. And then let's do that again, starting and stopping. And then once more in faster speed. Thanks for watching. My conclusion for this is that I think it's a really, really great system, and I will let you guys decide from seeing the footage compared to this one what you feel if you feel the fluidity is good enough for you. And I mean, it is one of the more smooth heads that I've used. However, in my opinion, it leaves a little something to be desired when compared to a head like the fancier. So thanks for watching. By the way, do check out my review of the fancier. Unfortunately, it does currently require you to send it in for an oil change in order to get this sort of performance, and hopefully we'll find a better solution to that soon. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you found this helpful. I'll see you in the next video.